Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. I'm here with Sarah today.
Hello.
And we're going to do some pastel. And I'm hoping my voice holds out. I've had a bit of a cold, so I guess if my voice doesn't make it, Sarah can just she can narrate it. Whoops! My computer wasn't muted.
Professional website.
All right, awesome.
Wow,
I was listening.
loud.
I was sorry. I was listening to an audiobook on the monitor computer. Totally forgot to mute it. So we're going to be doing pastel today, and we are going to use Canson Me Tints paper. And I wanted to show you this. This paper's been around forever. The reason I like this is because one side has more of a texture to it. I'm not sure if that picks up on the camera, it being black and all. The other side's more smooth. So if you're an artist who likes to use colored pencil, you could use the smoother side. But if you're an artist who also likes to use pastel, you've got this surface. So it's kind of like you have two uses in one. You could just pick the surface you prefer. We're going to work on the rougher side today. It's not a super rough paper by any means, but it's definitely rough enough to hold the pastel. This video is brought to you by jerrysartorama.com. I have links in the video description to the pastels and paper I am using, and I forgot to add the pastel pencils to the video description, but it is on my blog post if you want to find these Derwent pastel pencils. You don't have to have these, but they can be really handy for sketching. And I use a knife to sharpen mine. I just kind of whittle away the wood to get to the pastel on the inside. So it just kind of makes your pastels go a lot longer. I've got a few sponges. These are the Pan Pastel sponges, but you could use makeup sponges or just your fingers if you want to. And I have some makeup applicators, and I like these from I got these at a Christmas tree shop for like $1, but I like that all the handles have different colors, so I can kind of keep a different color for each kind of color family, and then I don't have to wash them or throw them away. So that's what we have here for supplies. I would love it if you had any questions, if you would type the word question in all caps. And since we're using pastels today to make this really useful for the folks that catch it on the replay, please keep your questions pastel related. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you have to add before we get going? Okay. Our reference photo is here. It's from the website Pixabay that has a bunch of public domain images, and I'm just going to try to keep it there so the flower part is in view, and we're going to start by sketching that. Actually, first let's put some background in. I'm just going to grab a few colors, and you can see the texture of the paper when I do that, just on its edge. I'm going to throw some colors in here so they're kind of like maybe out of focus flowers in the distance. We'll throw in a little bit of, oh, here's another tip. When I use a color, I'll kind of put it back in so it's kind of tipping up so I can see what colors I've used, because I always try to go back to the same colors whenever I can, just to create some harmony. So this pretty green. It's going to be a pretty dark background, but I do want to get some of these colors in. Maybe try some of this blue for sky. Maybe a little bit lighter blue.
Tony Peralta, how would you be able to save pastel art longer? I'm assuming he means preserve your pastel artwork.
Frame it under glass with a mat. And I actually like to put a little spacer, and I'm just using a sponge to blend here. I like to use a little spacer behind the mat, so if any dust falls off, it doesn't dirty the bevel of the mat. So you can see we didn't put too much pigment there, so a lot of it is blending away. So I'm going to go ahead and add more because I know I want a little bit more in there. So just press a little bit firmer. I'm going to go right in that other colors a little bit more too. In the meantime, if it's in your like paper pad or portfolio, just take a little bit of glassine or deli paper and add that on top. Just layer it over and secure it with some washi tape. And it can live like that for a while. Or you could spray it. I personally don't prefer to spray my work, but you know, you can use like a fixative, or if you don't care about the painting too much, you can use some hairspray. I haven't had any issues anytime I have sprayed hairspray on anything. So I just think that, you know, it might yellow over time, but I always think any sort of adhesive or fixative could yellow over time anyway. So I don't really trust any of it.
Gracie Shack, can you recommend a soft pastel, please?
Yeah, linked up in the video description are the Faber-Castell ones I'm using today. They're very affordable. It's a great introductory because they're going to perform just like an artist, like a better quality soft pastel, but you don't have to worry so much about the ingredients because sometimes pastels can be a little nasty as far as chemical wise, because instead of having your pigment encased in a media that's going to stick it to the paper, it's kind of loose. So you kind of have to think about, not breathing it in and being very careful about how you treat your work area and stuff. This kind of, before you really know what you're doing, this is a great option. All right, so basically what I want to do is just get kind of like a mottled background here. And I'm just using this other clean sponge just to kind of push some colors together a little bit. And I'm going to add maybe a little bit more of the red. And a little bit more of the green. Just to give the impression of like out of focus flowers in the background. And then just maybe use my finger just to gently blend it. Sometimes I feel like the sponges remove too much pastel when I'm blending.
Susan Walbert, are pastels similar to a chalk?
Yes, these are. When we're talking about soft pastels, we mean kind of like a chalky pastel. It's actually a clay, not a chalk in there, but it's got a chalky feel. And oil pastels, of course, have more of a lipsticky crayon feel. So if it feels like eyeshadow, it's a soft pastel. If it feels like lipstick, it's an oil pastel.
Brenda Collins Deeks, can we do this one on rough watercolor paper?
Sure.
I don't have my tint paper.
Yeah, or even a cold press. This is probably about the similar texture to a cold press. Rough's going to use up more pastel because it's going to scrape more of the pastel off the stick. I'm going to use a pastel pencil to get the sketch of my flower, and I'm going to start with a fairly big kind of dotted circle just to kind of encompass the whole design. As I do start to get a little more confident with what I'm putting down here, I'll get a little darker. So I'm going to get the center circle, which would be that part of the flower right there. And then I'm going to go off of that and get this big petal this big petal right there.
J. Cliveshare 2, how does what you're using today compare to pan pastels?
It's very similar. You can use pan pastels, just use an applicator where I'm using a stick. But pan pastels are super, super soft. They're probably a little bit softer than this. I do have pan pastels as well. And I thought about using them, but I thought probably fewer people have pan pastels than just a regular. So go ahead and use that, definitely, if you have it. And then, so I put the opposite petal there. I'm going to do one up here, this really big one that's reaching around. Actually, I want that to come out a little bit more. I'm going to get this one here. So this one's going outside of the circle that we put in originally.
Patricia Hank, do the colors last? I'm assuming she means if they're
framed in a glass, they will. It's the same pigment that you would find in your paint. It just doesn't, it's got a clay as a binder and extender rather than like gum arabic or acrylic medium or oil, basically. I'm going to draw a little bud here. And I'm going to put one right over here so it's similar to our reference photo. Reference photo is linked in the video description and also on my website.
Now I wonder too if you could, if you were doing something like this on a watercolor paper, like a cold press that you'd stamp on.
Mm-hmm.
Could you stamp on the pastel and then like heat emboss
over top?
Yeah.
Like emboss the entire thing to seal it down?
Or do like, if you have like a cool poppy or flower, do like a color background, stamp, and then heat emboss over it, like with a clear embossing powder.
And then do pastel on top?
No, do the pastel first. Stamp the image, put the, with the clear stuff, put your powder on.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be kind of a cool look. It kind of a cool mix. I bet it would give you kind of like a tone-on-tone water.
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Because the chalk stuff would come right off of your stamps.
Oh, yeah, wipe right off.
So it wouldn't stain them.
Right. Oh, that's a good idea. That'd be fun to try. And I gotta apologize in case I sneeze or cough. My nose is tickling right now, so So it might happen. I'm going to start with this yellow just because I think it's going to show up a little bit better. I'm going to get these brighter, lighter areas in the flower blocked in. And since these flowers these poppies have kind of like a crepey texture, and then you can see their veins kind of come in from the outside, like kind of linear down the petal like that. I'm going to try to capture that a little bit while I'm blocking it in. A lot of this will get blended out, but it might as well, our strokes that we put in there might as well be accurate, even if they are going to get blended out. And oh, I think I want this petal actually to come out a little bit more now that I look back at it.
W. Culpepper, if I don't have pastel pencil, can I sketch with a colored pencil?
You're better off just to sketch with a stick of pastel, because a colored pencil is going to create a waxy barrier and your pastel might not stick on top of it. They'll resist it, kind of like how watercolor does. All right, now I'm going to grab that color we used in the background, put kind of our mid-tone reds in with that. Some over here.
Tony Peralta, how long do most pastel works take compared to colored pencils or watercolors?
They're usually pretty quick. Actually, that's one of the reasons I chose pastel today, because I'm not sure how long my voice is going to hold out. So I'm like, well, I think I can get a pastel painting in. And I'd had a lot of requests. And my older pastel videos have been doing very well recently, so I thought that'd be good to bring the people what they want. Now I'm going with this darker red, and I'm going to fill in the rest of the areas pretty much. So this would be our darkest color. Just be careful if you're going to go buy pastels. If you are new, I would start off with a set like this rather than the most expensive artist grade ones, just because when you get into the artist grade ones, you're also getting into more chemicals, and you want to make sure that you're prepared to be responsible with those chemicals and make sure that you have dust collection systems in place and all of that. So make sure you're careful with your materials before you go and try the artist quality.
Jennifer Hopping, would pastels be a medium that could be used in a sketchbook? If so, would I need to apply a fixative?
Yes and yes. I would definitely recommend a fixative in a sketchbook. I saw a really cool tutorial by Carolyn Doobie, who's a mixed media artist on YouTube, and she actually took her jelly plate, brayered Mod Podge over it, and stamped it down to seal her pastel work inside of her art journal. It was really cool looking. I'm going to go ahead and start blending this. You can use your finger, or you can use like a makeup sponge, whatever you want. I usually use my finger, but since I have the makeup sponges and I know I can't just stop and go wash my hands in the middle of the live stream, I'm just going to use this makeup applicator. I'm going to go dark to light, because I often find with pastels that the lighter colors kind of overwhelm everything. So it's a little bit opposite as opposed to like watercolor in that respect. And it's going to get like, we're going to have the hot mess stage here where everything is just kind of looking like a big blob. And don't worry about that. It's going to do that. It's going to look that way. So just trust me. You're going to see it through.
One thing I keep thinking of as we watch the Poppies is the Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah, Poppies.
Poppies will make them sleep.
And I do feel like I could go for a nap. I finally got the craft room done though, and I got the video. I edited all the video yesterday because I, didn't have a voice. So,
yep.
And I narrated that as I went along. And I didn't really realize how much stuff I got rid of until I was looking back at the footage and I saw the before, and it was like, that's scary. All right, I'm going to go in with my fingers just because I feel like I pull off a lot more color when I use the sponge, so that will help me kind of lock it in there a little bit. Get a nice under painting here. I actually prefer to blend with my fingers. I think it retains the color a little bit better. But I know some people really are bothered by that. Okay, now we can start layering on a little more detail. And I want to go in with a brighter light color. I'm going to go in with this almost buttery yellow here. Along the edges where it's really getting lit up. And as I go with my painting, I'm going to blend less and less. And some pastel artists don't blend at all. Some prefer to retain every brush stroke, every pastel stroke, and that's completely fine. So everybody was telling me Beauty and the Beast movie was good. I got a lot of messages on that, Sarah.
Did you?
I did.
Okay. I trust but verify. I will probably go see it by myself because I can't imagine John will want to go see that.
Well, Kathy and I were talking about taking the girls, so you can come with us.
Maybe. Karen Emmett, do you prefer chalk pastels over oil?
It really depends. I like both. I probably would say I like chalk a little bit better. But they're both fun. This is the same yellow we began with. There's no index on the set of what color I've got, so you just kind of go by eye. But this is what the package looks like. I honestly think I paid about $15 or $20 for this when I got it. I think I've seen them for more than 30, but I think Jerry's has them around 27. If I recall, there's 72 half sticks though, so it's a good assortment. I might be thinking of a smaller set I paid $15 for.
Well, in a lot of your big box stores, if you get that 50% off
oh
coupon,
yeah,
if
they carry it,
if they carry it, sometimes you can get a better deal on it, sometimes you can't.
Yeah. Well, keep your eyes open if it's something you're interested in, and if a deal comes along, then you can snag it.
Suzanne Chalk, when blending, do you use a light pressure?
Yeah. Well, it depends. If you have a really rough paper, you might need more pressure. You kind of you'll feel how much the pastel is moving, and you can decide whether you need more or less. It's really important as you're layering colors that you go with the direction of the item that you're coloring. I think I need to go in with a little bit lighter of a color, and I'm seeing some like pink undertones in there, so I'm going to try this pinkier color. I'm seeing it kind of in the highlight areas as well. Very subtle bits of it. Kind of where the yellow kind of goes to turn to red. You get this almost like a little bit of a glow, pink glow.
Chewy's on crumb patrol for you. So you won't have to sweep later. You really can take a nap.
There. I know I told the kids are having the school play, and I told the music teacher that I would help with hair and makeup, and it's all 1940s stuff. So I was practicing my victory rolls last night. And I was like, that's a really classy hair. Do I really ought to wear Victoria rolls?
You should. You have long hair. You can do a nice updo with the Victory rolls. I've done short hair Victory rolls because I've been Rosie the Riveter a few times for Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
And just you do the Victory roll with about 6 pounds of hairspray, but it holds.
Yeah, and teasing. Lots of teasing. You gotta
Yep.
tease the under part of the roll.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I sent Lila to school the Victory rolls today, and she was...
Oh, she probably looks so cute.
She looked adorable. She looked like that Marvel character, the agent lady from the Captain America time period. She had a TV show, Agent something. I can't remember what the name was, but that's who she looked like. She looked great, but she was all like self-conscious. I'm like, you're going to be performing for the little kids at 8:30.
Right.
Nobody's going to give you a hard time because your hair is...
I know. You look different from everybody else. You're not in your shabby leggings and loose t-shirt.
I'm pretty sure she was wearing shabby leggings, but I'm going to tap this off. You don't want to blow this dust. It wouldn't really hurt you with these pastels, but it's a good habit to avoid. So... And since we have kind of a modelly background, you don't really have to worry about messing it up too much. Now, in pastels, I will actually use black. So I'm going to go in right now and get some of this. You can see a black pastel is actually darker than the black paper. You get a really crisp look. And it helps you cut out those shadows really well. And I'm actually going to, I'm going to put more black in here, kind of like an oriental poppy, because I think it's going to help separate those leaves. So even though it's not on my reference photo, I'm doing it because I think it helps define it. And I'm going to grab a green pastel pencil and sketch out the center a little bit. It's not going to stick too well on top of the soft pastel because it's pastel pencil is harder than a pastel in a stick. So it's not going to hold up. It's not going to lay down on top as well, but it'll give me enough definition to go by. I'm going to see if I can actually put those lines in with a pastel pencil. I'm going to tap that down a little bit. Try to push it into the tooth of the paper and lock it down. I'm putting a dot for the center part right there. Drawing some lines out. I'm going to pull those lines down the edge, which you really can't probably see too well, but it's going to give us just a little bit of definition there. And let's see, I need a really deep red, and I think I might need to actually do some mixing, but let me see what happens if I overlay this over the black and drag it out. Oh, I like that. That's giving me a nice shadow. And a lot of pastel artists will use hundreds of colors in a painting because, like, instead of mixing your, sap green and yellow to have a warmer green, they would actually have like 5 shades of sap green with different amounts of white or black added to them, especially if they don't like to blend so much because they want to retain the brush stroke. So it's a little bit different than watercolor, where you can get by with just like a few shades and mix. Because it is a dry media, like colored pencil, you end up kind of wanting more. So that's why I like that 72 stick assortment, because it does give you a good amount of colors and you don't have to spend a lot of money buying them per stick. And if you're buying them for kids, definitely make sure you're getting a non-toxic version, because they are going to blow the dust. It's just, they can't help it. It's kind of, everybody wants to just blow the dust. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to not. Redefining that edge. You can really sharpen up your edges with the pastel after you've got a pretty good idea of where they are. I think I'm going to try this kind of light, almost neon coral color, and see if I can. Oh yeah, see, I could pull that petal right out with that color. I'm just twisting the stick so that I get a variance of line. I don't want it to be outlined like a cartoon, but I want some highlights here and there. And I like to skip around with the same color a bit so it tends to blend it and match a little bit. You gotta play the kind of get between the blending and the definition. You need a good mix of both. And some more yellow up there too. And our brightest color that we used on the flower was this like buttercream color. Just outline little sections, and that will give you a really nice, brightness. And I'm going to get some of the segments between the pink lines here if I can. I'm going to tap that off again because I can't really see what I have colored and what I haven't. I can make a mess of my paper on my desk because I'm going to be moving downstairs again.
Soon, hopefully, if it ever starts to warm up.
It's not too bad if I'm down there with a sweater, actually. Now that it's all nice and clean, it's very inspiring. You haven't seen it yet. I'll have to show you that.
I haven't. I'll have to take a peek.
All right. I'm going to leave that be for right now and work on the little poppy buds and stems. So I'm going to go in with this color that we used in the background. I think I'm just going to add some of that color. I don't want to clog it with all of this color for right now. I'll move it over a bit. I like to put a couple different colors in there. I'm going to try this. It's almost like a dark jade green. And you can make the line real choppy because they have fuzzy stems. And then I'm going to go with, excuse me, I think like a dark purple pastel pencil if I have one. Oh, I don't. I'm going to use a purple pastel. This one's pretty fresh and it's got a nice squared off edge, so I should be able to get in there. And I'm just going to I put a little dot. It's kind of like right there what we did. Did the dot, and then I'm going to put little lines coming off. Don't worry if it's too bright. We can always dull it down. I like this color, though. This might be really good for getting some shadows into our flower, too. So I think I'm going to add some of that in here in the shadow areas.
Noah Murphy, have you tried Rembrandt brand pastels? What is the quality like? I was given some as a present, and I am new to chalk.
They're supposed to be fantastic. I don't have any, though, but they're fine pastels. They're among some of the best, as far as from what I've heard. I have Winsor & Newton, who doesn't make pastels anymore. Schminke, I love Schminke. They're my favorite. They're super soft and buttery. Like, I could have this completely clogged with these pastels, and it would still accept Schminke on top because that's such a soft pastel. So you work hard to soft. So a pastel pencil is really hard. A Conte crayon or a new pastel is really hard. So you can kind of keep building soft to light. I'm going to grab some of the light yellowy color that I had used on the flower and add a little bit of that onto my buds for highlights. I'm going to see if I can put little fuzzies on the stem with this white pastel pencil. That's working all right. So it'd just be kind of like the light catching the hairs on the edge of the stem. Do you have a big group today?
We've been averaging over 300 people.
Nice.
17 right now.
Great. You can almost hear how hard the pastel pencil is versus the softer stick. Because if these were soft, they would just crumble and break anytime you tried to use them, so they have to be harder. So it's just a good rule of thumb to remember. They're going to be, that the pencils are going to be harder. I'm going to add kind of an earthy green in there too. If you don't have this many colors, that's fine. You don't have to add so many in there. I think it's kind of fun just to have those points of color next to each other. All right, I'm going to tap off my dust again. And I'm going to add some, like, my brightest highlights. So if you have any questions, I'm actually going to finish pretty early today. So you can go ahead and pop them in the chat. I think that this is actually almost done. And something else you can do if you want to just give a little spark of color, you can take an opposite color and you can add it. Like I could take red over the green and they won't really mix. They'll just kind of lay down next to each other and you can get a little bit of a spark of energy. And I want to kind of brighten that up a little bit. I kind of lost the pink. Maybe go around it with some black. This set has a couple blacks in it. I think it might have a couple whites. Maybe it only has one, but that's kind of handy because if you run out, those are the colors you tend to run out of.
Deborah Friant, do you ever use blender pencils with pastels?
Not like the colored pencil blenders. Those are for wax. I know there's like Pen Pastel has a clear blending pastel that you can kind of extend your color with and use it with their pastel tools. But as far as like a pencil that blends soft pastel, I'm not aware of anything like that. But it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I don't do pastel that much, so it could be something, I guess.
Michael Ann, can you use the dust?
If it's still on your paper, you can press it in with your fingers. I guess you could tap it onto something else and smear it around. Some artists will collect the dust in their, like, the tray of their easel and add some water to it and make a new pastel out of it. So yeah, you could.
Tony Peralta, what would happen if water was added to this piece?
This one, it would dull the colors down because I'm on black paper. But if you did it on watercolor paper, then you could do like a wash with them. They'll just kind of dissolve. If you were to get a pastel wet, it would just dissolve into like a paste. So, yeah, that's what would happen there. Some pastels are marketed as water soluble, like the Charvin ones, but they're essentially more like this. They're just, yes, they're all like essentially water soluble. All of the chalky pastels. There's a little more green in here, I think. And maybe a little black into the centers here because they're a little bright.
Nicolene Mann, do you need to spray this with a fixative of some sort so it doesn't smear afterwards?
Well, you have to do something to it. You can either put a piece of glassine or deli paper over it, and just kind of tape it to the back with some washi tape. or low-tack tape just to keep it safe, or frame it under glass, or you'll want to put like fixative on it. It just depends on your preference. I've used hairspray before, I've used fixative, but I usually don't like to do anything to it unless it's going to be living in a sketchbook. In that case, it needs something on it because it's going to be disturbed every time you open it. All right. Do you have any last minute questions? Because I think I'm going to call this one done.
I think we're caught up.
All right. I apologize for this being such a short stream, but
Well, your voice is still holding up, so let's end it before
Yeah.
it fades away, because I can't tell them step by step what you're doing.
it would be funny to listen to, though. Jason offered to voice over my latest project. Like, oh, that would be very entertaining, I think.
That would be, yes.
Yeah, you get that thing. I'm not sure what it's called, but then you cut your paper with it. Yeah, it would be fun. Please check out our sponsor, jerrysautorama.com. If you need any art supplies, they have fantastic prices, and they do carry this exact pencil set and pastel set that I am using. Like I said, these came from the drugstore. You could use all sorts of things around your house, and your fingers work pretty much as good as anything else too. So use what you have and have a good time with this project. I really had fun painting with you today, but now I think I'm going to have a nice hot cup of tea and maybe a little nap. Thank you so much for watching. Until next